If you want to know how to use Notion to plan your Instagram content, then you're in the right place because that's what we're going to get into in this video. So I'm going to walk you through a template that I have in Notion, and I'll leave a link to it in the description below. But even if you don't access this template, you can still take pieces from this so that you can set up your own workflow in Notion. So I'll also try and add chapters because I think this video might end up quite long, so that you can jump about and find the bits that you want. So let's jump in. Okay, so in the template, the first things you have are a publishing calendar and the scheduling deadline. So this is just because, well, I personally like to batch content. So I find having both these calendars really useful, and you can actually plan out your content in calendar format. If you hover over the calendar and click the plus button, you can add an item. So let's go for the Monday the 18th. So I'll walk you through what's included in this database template so that you know how it works, and then I'll show you how you can customize it for yourself. So because this is already templatized, it comes up saying Instagram content. You can then change this to kind of describe the content. So reel about X, and then the publishing date is obviously already set because I entered this through the publishing calendar. I can then add my scheduling deadline. So let's say I want to have this done by tomorrow, by Friday. Content type. So I can select live, story, reel, carousel, or image. So I'll select reel because I've said it's a reel. But you can change this out if Instagram, if they add new features, you can add in new ones. You just hover over these 6 dots at the side, click on it, click edit property, and you can either change out options by clicking on them and changing the text, or you can add an option by clicking the plus button, new option, and then you can delete it by clicking on it and clicking delete. Okay. Next up, we have the status. So most of my new pieces of content go into idea, and then I will move it along the process as I move along the process. And I'll go into that in more detail in a moment. Then we have content pillar. So content pillar is like a content category. So if, for example, my business is about workflows and I split that into subcategories, which are sales and marketing workflows, workflows for delivering your product or service, workflows for kind of general overall CEO, keeping an eye on top level stuff in your business. So that would be how I would break down into subcategories. So yours would be obviously different to mine, and you can go into content pillar again, click on 6 dots at the side on the left hand side, click edit property, and you can click on these pillars one by one and change them out to what your pillars are. Next up, we have content purpose. So this would be, why are you creating that piece of content? Are you, a lot of reels you would create for growth. You might be sharing a sales post. You might be sharing something for social proof or community to get to know the people in your audience. So I've currently got this set up as just general purpose 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that you can change this out to suit what your goals are, what the purpose is of you creating content on Instagram. You can change these out. So I would change it to audience growth, nurturing my audience, building authority, sales posts, that sort of thing. So you can change those out to suit you. So I'll just select random ones here to keep going. So you select those as you go. Then Instagram is becoming more search-based, so you can pop in some target SEO or keywords in here. So say you're wanting to target, for me, I would be wanting to target Notion because I make a lot of content about Notion. I would just pop that in as one of my target keywords or Notion workflow. Next up, content overview. And so if you're filming a reel, you might put all the different scenes or sections you need to create, or it might just be the purpose section from YouTube video, which is what I tend to do. And then we have where you can put in your caption text, or if it's a story, you can put your story text in here. So you can just copy it across. Particularly if you have the Notion app on your phone, you can just copy it directly from your phone on Instagram directly, or if you're scheduling using a scheduling tool, you can copy it from here directly into that scheduling tool. So any media you need to create would go in here. So let's say I need to film 3 pieces of video, vertical video, and you might go into detail about each piece, what's involved. So with B-rolls, you might require B-roll. So if it's a talking head video, you might want to include some B-roll or some visuals to go with that. You would tick this, and then when you've created it, you would tick the created. Same with cover required. That would be for a reel as well. If you need to make a cover created. Otherwise, you would just leave these unticked if you're creating a different piece of content. Then you can attach any media that you've created. If you have a lot of media and you don't want to store it on Notion, you can change this by clicking on the 6 dots, click Edit Property, and change it from Files and Media to URL. And you can link to where you store your files elsewhere, if that's like Google Drive or somewhere like that. The same with link to post. You can just copy the link on Instagram once you've posted and pop it here so that you can find it easily. So that's the kind of main meat of the planner section. If I click through to the actual database here, I tend to work mainly in the content status. So I went through this briefly in the actual database entry. So where I had content status and a drop down where you select where you're at on your process, that's this in a different view. So it's sorted by those categories. So I've come up with my idea about Reel About X, and I'm ready to write an overview about what that piece of content is. I may have already done that when I was inputting it initially, and I may skip right to create media. Then when I come in to maybe batch reels or something, I can see what reels I need to create by looking here. Maybe I film 4 in a row, and then I move all 4 over to edit, and then I go in and edit them all. And then I go in and write the captions. And you can play about with this. You can just click and drag to change the order. Maybe you prefer to write captions before you create your media, or vice versa. So whatever process works for you, you can change this out. You can also add in sections by clicking this plus button, and you can add a new group, new part of process, and then you can slot that in wherever it is that you like to do that additional piece of the process. If you don't like certain sections I've put in, you can click on the 3 dots beside it and click delete pages, and it will delete that. So that's how I like to use the content status section to organize my workflow. I also want to show you the template section. So I have my Instagram content template here. So this blue button at the top right hand side of the database, if you click the arrow, the blue arrow, you can see this will be a list of templates. If there's more than one template, there would be a list of them here. My Instagram content one is the default. And if I click the 3 dots, I can edit that. If you want to add anything in to the bottom section, maybe you want to link to other assets, or to maybe have a file with lots of B-roll content already, like selfie videos and videos of you doing things, or stock videos that you've built up over time. You could add stock B-roll, change that type to a link URL, and then you can link to that. And I'm just going to put my website address in, but let's pretend my website address is a link to all my B-roll stock footage. Then this is going to come up when I'm planning every single piece of content, so I can access it easily because it's there all the time. So you can add things like that in to make your life easier and to access things just really easily at the click of a button. You can also change property. So at the moment I have this media as a link to an external source that's hosting or storing all my media. I might want to change that to host it within Notion. So I can click on the 6 dots and I can edit property, and I can change it from URL to files and media, and then I can upload it directly in here. So now if I click on it, I can click choose a file. So you can do that with any property. You can change that property to suit your needs better. The other thing to say is you can edit the properties in this top section of your page, the database properties. You can edit those either in one of your entries and it will change it for everything because it's like a database, it's a table, so it will change it everywhere. Or you can change it in your template. Either way, it will change it everywhere. So if you're looking to change anything in your database, you can change it in an individual entry and it will change it across the board, or you can change it in a template and it will change it across the board. But things that might be hosted down here or entries that are already within your database, for example, say you want B-roll is required for every single piece of content you make on Instagram and you want that to be pre-ticked, you would want to change that in your template rather than in an individual entry. And then every time, so I'll just show you. So I'll go into my template. And I will tick B-roll required. And now if I click new and open this, you'll see that B-roll required is already ticked. And that's because I changed it in my template. Okay, down here you can add anything you like. So you could add links to bookmarks and you can enter in a link. You can add images that you might want to include, and you can upload or you can go directly to Unsplash or Giphy. So there's lots of things you can add down here to help in your content creation process. And again, if there's things you always use, maybe you have a Canva template that you always use to create reels. You could create a reels template and in it includes a link to your Reels page on Canva, so you can just go straight to it when you're creating content. So that sort of thing can speed up the process. And then once you've been creating content for a while and you want to track your results, if we go back into the hub up here and scroll down, I have the Instagram growth tracker. So if I just click into this, this is set up as a template again. So when you're doing a new month tracking, this will come up and you just change this out to your month and year. So I'll do November 2023. And then you just fill in the information. If you hover over, you'll see what the full information required is. So this is followers end of last month. So you'd pop that in here. So let's pretend we had 500 followers the end of last month. And then the followers end of this month, let's say it's gone up to 550. So we can track how much our account has grown in terms of followers. We can enter our engagement rate number. So I'm making these up completely, but let's say we've got 30 people engaged and we've had 670 impressions. So that works out our engagement rate. And it's 4.4. And you can add in more stats that you want to track. I know that Instagram stats have gotten a lot more basic than they used to be. So these are kind of the top ones they have at the moment at the time that I've created this template. But if you wanted to add more things in, you just unhide that property and you'll see the add property button here, and you can add in other stats. I usually use number and then just change that to whatever the stat is. Let's say it's watch time. Let's say they brought that in to Instagram. So you can add anything you like in there. And then down here, we have a section for you to add your top performing content for that month. So I've got top reach, second reach, third reach. So the posts that have been pushed out to the most people, you pop them in there. You give the content a name, link to the content. You can then put in what the actual reach is and what the engagement is. And the same with the top engaged posts. And again, you can add other things in here if you want to track more. But again, remember to do it back out here in your overall database for tracking growth. Click on the blue button, click on the 3 dots by your template and click to edit your template and edit it in here because that's going to change it for across the board on all your entries. If you change it in this entry, it will only change it for that entry and it won't change it for all future months that you're tracking. You can also click through to the growth tracker page where you can see the back-end table. And once you have several months in there, you can then start to sort by engagement. You can see which month had best engagement, and you can maybe try and work out what posts did well then and see if you can revisit that kind of content to get your engagement rate back up. You can add click-throughs into this by adding an extra piece in. So if you're wanting to track your click-through rate off-site, say to your website or something, if you're able to track it, then you can add it in if it's something that's important to you. But you can play about with this and make it suit your requirements. And again, I'll leave a link to this template in the description. And if you like the idea of using Notion to organize your content, plan your workflows, whether it's content or business, then be sure to subscribe. And YouTube is probably suggesting another video similar to this one right now that you can watch next.